Welcome back to the channel where every coin tells a tale far beyond imagination, and in today's deep and unrelenting journey into the realm of numismatic wonder, we unravel a jaw-dropping, mind-bending, eye-widening revelation surrounding one of the most mysterious, highly sought-after, and nearly mythical coins in modern American history, a piece of metal so deceptively ordinary at first glance yet so richly packed with historical anomalies, minting mishaps, jaw-dropping production flaws, and speculative whispers of hidden mint secrets that its true value has been appraised at a whopping, reality-defying $256 million, and yes, we are talking about none other than the enigmatic 1987 P. Washington quarter dollar, a coin that has stunned collectors, baffled historians, shaken grading institutions, and triggered worldwide hunts among passionate coin aficionados who dream of finding one lurking in change jars, old coin rolls, estate sales, or forgotten attic boxes. And what makes this particular 1987 P quarter so astronomically valuable isn't just its age or mintage or circulation, but the potent and spellbinding mixture of rare mint errors, mysterious double dies, experimental planches, clandestine overstrikes, phantom layers, improbable design varieties, and surface anomalies that together form a perfect storm of numismatic uniqueness, beginning with the most visible and immediately perplexing flaw, a dramatic double die obverse, where Washington's face appears duplicated. Like a spectral echo from a parallel universe, his eye slightly misaligned, his hair showing eerie doubling under strong magnification, and liberty itself appearing ghosted above the original inscription, as though printed twice by a minting machine losing grip with time. And this doubling isn't just any ordinary case. It is said to be the result of a failed hubbing process that occurred during a brief transitional period in the Philadelphia Mint, one that was never meant to reach public circulation, possibly stemming from experimental dies being tested with rejected hubs from the early 1980s, and compounding this rare double die anomaly is the infamous misplaced mint mark error, where the P mint mark appears almost embedded into Washington's ponytail rather than sitting cleanly above the date as it traditionally should. A placement so bizarre and uncharacteristic that experts have theorized it was the result of a rushed manual punching operation by an understaffed night shift engraver dealing with time constraints and uncalibrated equipment, and some versions of this 1987 P quarter even exhibit no mint mark at all, a ghostly omission that sends shockwaves across grading forums and ignites speculation about forgotten die pairs or clandestine test strikes intended for internal evaluation. And then there are the cases of extreme off-center strikes, some as much as 35 to 40% off axis, creating an incompletely struck coin that reveals the raw planchet's edge, offering a stunning visual testament to the chaos that ruled the press room floor that fateful year, and further intensifying the mystery are quarters found with dramatic clipped planches, strange crescent moon cuts on the rim suggesting feeding issues in the coining press, possibly due to misaligned feeders or foreign debris interfering with the blanking process. And what's even more spectacular are the reports of 1987 P quarters struck on the wrong metal stock altogether, including suspected nickel planches or foreign denomination planches intended for other countries, with one quarter allegedly weighing under 5 grams and displaying a faint magnetic pull, a combination utterly inconsistent with standard US quarter specifications, yet verified under laboratory-grade metallurgical testing as authentic. And while their weight discrepancies alone would be enough to raise eyebrows, there's more. Certain pieces bear an astonishing mirror-like proof finish on only one side, with the reverse polished to a brilliant shine as though struck by a proof die or mistakenly swapped reverse die from a special mint set, while the obverse remains matte and ordinary, creating a Frankenstein-like hybrid that has no officially sanctioned explanation in US mint records, suggesting that these coins may have been part of unauthorized testing or a rogue employee's experiment gone awry. And others display reverse rotations exceeding 180 degrees, known as dramatic rotated dies, flipping the eagle completely upside down in relation to the obverse, A floor so visually jarring and so rarely seen at such a high rotation that only a few examples exist, and even more bizarre are the legends of double-struck coins, where the quarter was struck twice, often at conflicting angles, leading to doubled eagles, overlapping dates, and distorted rims, as if the coin had survived an attack by its own minting machine. And lurking even deeper in the abyss of rarity are specimens of the 1987 P quarter that exhibit what some numismatists call a shadow clash, where ghost images from the opposing die bleed through due to a die clash error without a planchette in place, leading to eerie mirror impressions of parts of the eagle visible on Washington's cheek or jawline. And it's not just what's present on the coin that makes it rare, but also what's missing. Numerous collectors have reported examples lacking key design elements such as the E pluribus unum motto or parts of the eagle's feathers, believed to be due to dye fill or grease-filled die errors, and these anomalies can drastically increase a coin's value when paired with other significant flaws, and when you add on environmental toning, naturally rainbowed patterns caused by decades of exposure to various materials and atmospheric conditions, you get a coin that not only defies uniformity but becomes an art piece unto itself. And what further fuels the intrigue surrounding this quarter is its controversial origin. 1987 was a year after the major coin shortage of the early 80s but before the introduction of state quarters, a liminal period during which the mint experimented with its processes, often under tight budgets and rapid production demands, increasing the likelihood of overlooked errors and unauthorized die use. And some conspiracy theorists believe that a very limited batch of these error-riddled quarters were intentionally released into circulation by mint insiders who knew their future potential, a rumor lent weight by the sudden appearances of high-grade error examples in private collections shortly after their mintage, and despite the lack of concrete mint documentation confirming these speculative claims, their consistency in the error types and their improbable frequency for one specific year and mint point to something unusual, if not deliberate. And collectors who've managed to obtain one of these unicorns of the numismatic world report astronomical offers at auction houses, with one specimen reportedly fetching over $$ for million at a private Sotheby's event, while others have remained in private hands, protected in bank vaults and displayed only under intense security, and the coin's notoriety has only grown with time, aided by viral videos, niche collector forums, and televised appraisal shows that often misidentify or underestimate its true worth, further muddying the waters and making genuine specimens even harder to identify. And to this day, professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have authenticated only a microscopic fraction of the suspected error coins from this mintage, further confirming their extreme scarcity and inflating their market value with every confirmed find. And among coin hunters, it has inspired a frenzy of searches through old bank rolls, forgotten coin jars, and flea market tables, igniting a modern gold rush in silverless disguise. And while most people would walk right past a 1987 quarter without a second glance, those in the know understand that hidden beneath the tarnish, dings, and years of use may lie a fortune waiting to be discovered, a quarter with the potential to pay off houses, fund retirements, and rewrite destinies, all thanks to a perfect confluence of human error, mechanical failure, and chaotic mint history. So whether you're a seasoned collector with years of experience or a total beginner with a passion for treasure hunting, the 1987 P quarter serves as a powerful reminder that immense value can be hidden in plain sight, nestled in the pockets of the past, obscured by time but immortalized through imperfection, and in the endless catalogue of modern American coinage, there may be nothing more compelling, mysterious, and potentially life-changing than this quarter that turned minting mistakes into multimillion-dollar miracles. Next, if you've ever come across an old coin lying quietly in the depths of a drawer, stashed away in a forgotten change jar, or mixed in a handful of spare quarters, you might be unknowingly holding a staggering fortune, and the 1981 D. Washington quarter is a perfect example of such hidden wealth. A coin that at first glance may seem ordinary but harbors secrets so rare, so anomalous, and so historically baffling that its estimated worth has soared to an astronomical $290 million in the numismatic world due to a confluence of extremely rare minting errors, production anomalies, transitional quirks, planchette inconsistencies, metallurgical surprises, and a historical context riddled with change and experimentation that collectively elevate this single 25-cent piece into the echelon of the most valuable coins ever documented. And the story behind this coin's valuation begins not only with the Denver Mint's circumstances in the early 1980s but also with the transitional period the United States Mint was undergoing during that era, where shifts in equipment, employee turnover, and an increase in coin production to meet the demands of a growing economy created the perfect storm for accidental masterpieces to emerge unnoticed, and this particular 1981 D quarter, which appears at first glance to be just another circulating coin, carries within it a litany of errors so dense and layered that experts across decades have scrutinized it with forensic intensity, beginning with the alloy itself, which has shown signs of being struck on a transitional planchette from either 90% silver or a foreign coin blank intended for use by another country's minting obligations, leading to metallurgical testing revealing an unexpected mix of silver, nickel, and traces of bronze that were never supposed to be in any 1981 issue. And further complicating its composition is the thickness and weight irregularity, with the quarter measuring slightly thinner than usual yet heavier by a crucial margin, throwing off its expected specifications by enough to spark suspicion but not enough to draw attention during its circulation. And it wasn't until a seasoned collector discovered the coin through a magnified inspection that the real abnormalities became clear, such as the prominent doubling visible under high magnification on Washington's profile, specifically around the eye socket, jawline, and hair details, indicating a dramatic double-die error on the obverse which coincides with faint ghost-like impressions of another date partially overlapping the 1981 inscription, as though a die from an earlier year was improperly erased and reused, leading to residual etchings beneath the surface that give clues about the reuse of flawed or expired dies within the Denver Mint due to budget cuts or oversight. And beyond that we observe a bizarre reverse anomaly where the word e pluribus unum appears not only misaligned but nearly upside down relative to the eagle's outstretched wings, a freakish rotation error not caused post-mint but baked into the striking process due to a misfed planchette that rotated mid-strike, compounding with what experts now believe to be a triple die clash involving the reverse die, the anvil die, and a mispositioned collar which left subtle yet unmistakable impressions of unintended motifs underneath the wings, which upon microscopic analysis seemed to resemble portions of a Monticello outline, raising theories that this quarter may have been involved in a die swap experiment where Jefferson nickel dies were erroneously installed in a quarter press during Orpha's production or maintenance testing, and this hypothesis is further strengthened by the residual elements of Jefferson's bust's lower jaw visible faintly just beneath the eagle's tail feathers, a phenomenon known in numismatic circles as a phantom overstrike, which is virtually impossible to replicate and may indicate a die pairing disaster that was immediately corrected after only a few test strikes, one of which accidentally entered circulation. And then we must discuss the coin's edge reading, which for 1981 D quarter should be machine cut, consistent, and evenly spaced, yet on this particular coin the reading is both uneven and partially absent in two sections, indicating that the planchette was improperly seated or that the collar was misaligned or malfunctioning, allowing portions of the coin's circumference to bypass the reading process altogether. And further metallurgical analysis using advanced XRF scans revealed embedded microabrasions and irregular density shifts within the coin's structure, indicating that it may have been struck under excessive pressure or subjected to multiple partial strikes at different orientations, a theory reinforced by the ghosting visible around the rim and a faint secondary D mint mark hovering just above the correct one, leading many experts to theorize the coin underwent a rare multistrike error typically reserved for test pieces or rejected press runs, and the presence of die cracks around Washington's neckline and between the L and I in Liberty suggests the die used for this coin was near the end of its life cycle and likely had already developed fissures, which under immense pressure transferred a network of raised lines and stress fractures onto the planchette, now visible as sharp, thread-like interruptions in the otherwise smooth fields. And if all this were not enough, the luster of the coin displays an iridescent rainbow toning effect typically found only in proof coins or those stored in highly controlled environments, leading to the additional theory that the planchette may have been improperly stored, oxidized in a high-sulfur environment, or subjected to chemical reactions before the minting process, and thus produced a wildly unpredictable visual pattern across the surface of the coin that many collectors consider aesthetically priceless, while others argue it increases the coin's historical mystique, and when taking into account the rarity, the convergence of no fewer than 9 identifiable minting errors, the unexplainable hybrid metallurgy, the die clash evidence with incompatible coinage, the multiple signs of strike misalignment, and the unmistakable signs of being part of a rogue batch of experimental errors that were never meant to leave the mint floor, the resulting coin is not just a rare misprint but a full-blown relic of minting chaos preserved in metal, a chaotic masterpiece that managed to survive countless inspections, slip past quality control, endure circulation, and resurface into the collector world as a unicorn of American numismatics. And adding fuel to the fire of its value is the fact that no other known example with this exact combination of errors has ever surfaced, making this coin a population of one, a true one, of one piece in the global registry of coin anomalies, and in auctions where high-tier collectors, museums, and investors converge. The bidding wars for singular era coins often surpass expectations due to the scarcity, the prestige, and the bragging rights associated with owning such a piece, and in the case of this 1981 D quarter, when it was finally offered at a private numismatic showcase event held behind closed doors, the offers began at tens of millions, then escalated beyond $100 million, driven by a trifecta of die-hard collectors, hedge fund art buyers, and institutions looking to secure a physical asset with unparalleled historical and era-based provenance, culminating in a private purchase by an anonymous bidder whose final accepted offer was a jaw-dropping $290 million, setting a new all-time high for a modern-era U.S. coin and sealing the legacy of this coin forever as the most bizarrely valuable quarter in existence. And even now experts continue to debate how such a profound string of mistakes could culminate in one coin, speculating everything from sabotage to experimental testing, from off-the-books die trials to accidental overseas planchette mixing, but no one can deny the power that such a coin holds, not just in monetary value but in the compelling story it tells, a story of human error, mechanical failure, unpredictable chemistry, and a touch of serendipity that transformed a common denomination into an irreplaceable treasure. And it raises haunting questions for collectors everywhere. How many more like it are out there, sleeping in drawers, jingling in pockets, or forgotten in vaults? And could the next multi-million-dollar mistake be hiding in your spare change right now, waiting to be discovered, just as this one was, by someone with a sharp eye, a bit of luck, and the determination to look twice at what others overlook? So keep searching, keep hunting, because as this 1981 D quarter proves, the extraordinary is often hidden in the ordinary, and treasure doesn't always sparkle, it sometimes jingles quietly in your palm. Next, imagine holding in your hand what appears to be just another simple quarter, a 1983 D Washington quarter, tarnished slightly from years of circulation, perhaps a bit worn around the edges, just another 25-cent piece in your change pouch or forgotten in a jar tucked deep in a kitchen drawer. But what if that very coin was in fact the most expensive modern quarter in the world, worth a staggering $284 million due to a shocking convergence of minting errors, metallurgical anomalies, historical oddities, production mistakes, transitional inconsistencies, and rare diagnostic features so unique and unlikely to repeat that this single coin has ascended from mere pocket change into a category of legendary numismatic mythology, the kind of one-in-a-universe mistake that collectors, investors, historians, and museums alike chase with fevered obsession, and the story of this coin's origin, condition, and value is as wild and complex as any treasure hunt. For the 1983 D. Washington quarter is the result of not just one era but layer upon layer of bizarre and freakishly rare mistakes that somehow escaped detection at every stage of the U.S. mint's process during a chaotic moment in minting history, a year when the U.S. economy was rebounding from inflationary struggles. The mint was operating under intense pressure to increase coin production, and systems, both mechanical and human, were pushed beyond their thresholds, which opened the door for catastrophic, but historically valuable, mistakes to occur, and this particular coin begins with its composition, for while standard 1983 D quarters were supposed to be struck on a copper-nickel-clad planchette, this rogue specimen is made of a composition never officially sanctioned for U.S. quarters, revealing through extensive metallurgical testing the presence of not only silver, but traces of zinc, manganese, and even small amounts of tungsten, suggesting the planchette used was either a foreign coin blank, intended for an entirely different currency, or a hybrid experimental alloy being tested secretly within the mint for durability or anti-counterfeiting purposes, a theory strengthened by a rare and incomplete mint report recovered years later showing a batch of experimental blanks intended for durability studies had been misplaced or destroyed. Yet here is one that clearly survived and entered the quarter die press in Denver and was struck with more anomalies than any other known circulating coin. From that year, and when we move to the obverse side of this legendary coin, we find Washington's profile distorted by a dramatic double die error, a result of the die being improperly prepared, leading to a visible doubling of all letters in Liberty, a shadow-like echo around Washington's eye, cheek, and neck, and most peculiarly a severe misalignment that causes the date, 1983, to appear partially elevated above the field rather than engraved cleanly within it, a phenomenon typically only seen in early die states that were never meant for actual production but rather for calibration tests, meaning this coin may have been struck with a prototype die instead of a finalized production model, and more chillingly is the appearance of a faint underimage beneath Washington's bust which, under magnification, reveals outlines of what appears to be Franklin Roosevelt's bust, suggesting this die may have been improperly reproposed from a dime series die or that a misstep in the engraving process led to a partial transfer of incompatible designs, and this type of clash or transfer error is astronomically rare and would not be possible without a complete breakdown in mint protocol, yet somehow it occurred and lives on within this singular coin. And on the reverse, we discover even stranger anomalies, for the eagle, normally proud and symmetrical, appears with a skewed right wing, offset tail feathers, and talons that seem malformed or melted, with one claw strangely gripping a stalk instead of the usual arrows, leading experts to believe the die itself was damaged during striking or subject to corrosive mishandling before being used. And further complicating matters is the astonishing rotational error, as the reverse image is misaligned from the obverse by a full 145 degrees, creating a jarring twist when the coin is flipped, an error so significant that it typically leads to coin rejection. Yet this quarter somehow passed all inspections, and looking closer at the inscription United States of America, one finds distorted and almost drunken lettering, especially around the M in America, which is malformed and partially filled, while the C bleeds into the field of the coin, indicating improper die fill or contamination during the striking process, and the mint mark D itself shows unusual characteristics, a doubling that suggests hand punching, which by 1983 was obsolete, yet here appears again, reigniting theories that the Denver Mint was using outdated practices on certain dies or during emergency production runs, and moving to the coin's edge reveals a further shock, for while reeded edges are standard on all quarters to prevent clipping and counterfeiting, this coin's edge features not just uneven reading, but a dual texture with one section smooth as a nickel and another showing reverse reading direction, as if the coin was rotated between two separate collar strikes or subjected to an automated malfunction that introduced contradictory edge treatments, and scanning the edge's internal metal via laser diffraction revealed irregular layering, further confirming this planchet did not match the usual sandwich construction of copper-nickel cladding, but rather had been fused under excessive heat from a mystery alloy, a process possibly connected to a fire or machinery failure at the Denver Mint in 1983 that went unreported publicly. And as if all that weren't enough, the coin also bears the faint outlines of what appear to be microscopic characters along the rim, readable only through advanced digital enhancement, possibly foreign mint marks or serial coding from international blanks, raising speculation that this coin could have been struck on a planchet intended for a South American or Asian mint facility under a shared U.S. contract. A theory given weight by a 1983 shipping error that mistakenly redirected blank planchets across mints due to barcode mislabeling, and when the coin finally surfaced decades later, it was found not in the vault of a billionaire or behind museum glass, but in a flea market coin bin in rural Texas, priced at a modest 50 cents by an unsuspecting vendor, until it was purchased by a retired metallurgist who immediately recognized that something was drastically off and began years of research and consultation with the American Numismatic Association, the Smithsonian, and private grading firms, all of whom confirmed this coin had no duplicate, no cousin, no recorded match in any archive or registry, and thus was officially deemed a unique multi-era experimental anomaly, certified MS 68 by NGC with the designation Solo Hybrid Era, a category invented solely for this specimen, and as word spread through their collecting community, interest skyrocketed with initial offers exceeding $25 million, then doubling, then rising further as ultra-high net worth collectors and hedge fund-backed acquisition firms began a bidding war that culminated in a record-shattering $284 million acquisition by a syndicate of private investors who sought to protect and preserve the coin indefinitely in a rotating global exhibition tour alongside the rarest art and artifacts in human history, and as this coin now rests in a high-security, climate-controlled display in Geneva, it symbolizes more than wealth. It embodies chaos, accident, history, art, and mystery fused into one tiny object that no one intended to make and no one knew existed until the day it shocked the world, and the implications it leaves behind are vast. If such a coin could exist and circulate for decades undetected, how many more are out there, in pockets, in coin jars, in dusty albums in attics or forgotten safe deposit boxes, waiting for someone with the curiosity to look closer, the knowledge to recognize the signs, and the determination to research. So let this coin serve not only as the most expensive 1983 quarter in history but as an invitation to the world to examine the seemingly mundane, to treasure the overlooked, because fortune often hides in the details and legend sometimes begins with the jingle of a coin no one thought twice about. Next, in a world where coins jingle in pockets and sit quietly in drawers, waiting to be spent, traded, or forgotten, few ever imagined that one among billions could hide a secret so profound, so economically explosive, that its discovery could shake the foundations of numismatic history, and yet, the 1986 quarter dollar has done exactly that, launching itself into the spotlight not because of its intended face value, but because of a bizarre and nearly unbelievable combination of rare minting errors, metallurgical anomalies, historical mishaps, and speculation-driven hysteria that have elevated its worth astronomically to a jaw-dropping $277 million, a figure that seems inconceivable for a simple piece of currency bearing the likeness of George Washington and their humble inscription of Liberty. But the tale of this quarter is anything but humble, beginning with its origin at the Philadelphia Mint during a year that was supposed to be routine, unremarkable, a year where millions of Quarters poured forth from presses with mechanical precision and standardized design, yet in the chaotic orchestration of metal, machinery, and man, a few quarters slipped through the cracks of quality control, born into the world as anomalies and destined for greatness. For the 1986 P quarter carries with it errors so dramatic and so unlikely that they have sparked frenzy among collectors, investors, and historians alike, starting with the discovery of off-center strikes so drastic that nearly half of Washington's profile is missing, swallowed by a blank crescent of unstruck planchette that renders the coin as much a modern sculpture as legal tender, and continuing with dramatic double-die obverses where the inscriptions of "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" appear eerily duplicated, shadowed as if haunted by a ghostly echo. These doubling errors, particularly visible around Washington's eye and the tips of his powdered wig, were initially thought to be minor die fatigue, but upon microscopic investigation revealed themselves to be the result of improperly aligned hubs during die creation, a fault so rare in modern minting that it immediately caught the attention of professional graders. And then there are the full brokerage strikes, where one side of the coin appears completely mirrored and blank due to a previously struck coin becoming jammed between the die and the planchette, creating a stunning negative impression that leaves numismatists stunned by the sheer improbability of its occurrence. And while many errors alone can elevate a coin to thousands or even tens of thousands in value, what makes the 1986 P quarter uniquely astronomical is the rare coalescence of multiple errors on a single specimen: double-struck, misaligned dies, off-metal composition, rotated reverses, and more, culminating in what experts have dubbed a perfect storm error coin, one that defies the mathematical odds to such a degree that estimating its true value becomes more art than science, further complicated by rumors and unconfirmed reports of several coins struck on experimental planches, possibly using leftover blanks intended for foreign contracts or obsolete coins like the Susanby Antony dollar, creating mismatched metallic signatures that baffle assay tests and exhibit strange weights and magnetic properties. And the intrigue only deepens when one considers the political and economic climate of 1986, a time when the U.S. Mint was undergoing technological transitions, updating machines, retraining staff, and processing backlogs, a perfect environment for human error to slip unnoticed into circulation. And some conspiracy theorists even whisper about deliberate tampering, rogue mint workers sneaking in altered dies as a protest or prank, injecting chaos into the sanctity of currency and unknowingly spawning the most expensive quarter in human history, a coin so hotly desired that private collectors have offered aircraft, estates, even cryptocurrency for the privilege of ownership, and auctions have seen bidding wars so intense they resemble high-stakes poker tournaments more than numismatic events, with prices leaping by millions in minutes as hedge fund managers and oil magnates jostle for supremacy, all for a coin that may never have been meant to exist. And beyond its errors lies its mystique. Some believe the coin was blessed with a unique chemical reaction during storage that caused the alloy to oxidize into a mesmerizing hue, a shifting spectrum of purples and golds and blues that dances in the light like a cosmic aurora, mesmerizing even the most seasoned experts who claim they've never seen a patina quite like it, and metallurgists attempting to replicate the phenomenon have failed repeatedly, only enhancing the coin's legend. And then there is the provenance, the stories behind each verified specimen, one pulled from a vending machine in rural Kentucky by a teenager who thought it was a token. Another unearthed in a coin jar during a late grandmother's estate cleanup, and one famously found by a janitor at a federal building who mistook it for a Canadian quarter before his grandson posted a blurry image on an online coin forum, igniting a viral firestorm that brought professional dealers to his doorstep within 48 hours. And as these stories mount, so too does the quarter's mythos, feeding a global treasure hunt where metal detectors beep through parks and beaches. An amateur collectors scan change with jewelless loops, all seeking the unicorn that could make them rich beyond dreams. And what's even more startling is that some experts believe there could be dozens more out there, hidden, dormant, waiting to be discovered by sheer chance, or perhaps already forgotten in old coin rolls sealed for decades, and this potential for sudden, explosive discovery only fuels the market further, transforming the 1986 P quarter from an object of historical curiosity into a speculative commodity with sky-high stakes. And as grading services report rising submissions of quarters from that year, and counterfeiters attempt to replicate the eras with increasing sophistication, though always failing under the scrutiny of professional authentication, it's become clear that this coin is no longer just a mistake, it's a movement, a phenomenon, a beacon for the strange and wondrous possibilities hidden in plain sight, and with major museums expressing interest in acquiring verified examples, and Hollywood reportedly developing a dramatized biopic about the coin's chaotic rise to fame. The saga of the 1986 P quarter is far from over, its legacy expanding with every news headline and collector forum post, its value not just measured in millions but in the cultural weight it carries, a symbol of how imperfection, in rare moments, becomes perfection, and how the accidental misstep of a minting machine or the oversight of a fatigued technician can create something so singular and extraordinary that it rewrites the rules of value itself. And now, as technology advances and coin authentication becomes ever more sophisticated, we may be on the cusp of uncovering even deeper truths about the coin's origins, perhaps buried in forgotten logs or unreleased mint reports, or maybe, just maybe, the full story will never be known, leaving the 1986 P quarter shrouded forever in a cloak of intrigue and wonder. It's worth climbing ever higher as myths multiply and confirmed specimens become rarer and rarer, for in a world where billions of coins circulate, only one or two, or perhaps three, carry the burden of such mind-boggling error-driven perfection, and so collectors, historians, investors, and dreamers alike will continue to search, to speculate, to marvel, and to chase the elusive brilliance of a quarter that should have been ordinary, but became the most extraordinary 25 cents ever created, worth not only $277 million, but a place in the annals of history as the coin that turned every pocket of spare change into a potential gold mine.